I am Asmita, your IELTS mentor here at Vedantu, and today I have for you 10 most asked essay topics in the IELTS Academic Writing Task 2. Now, these are not just topics, I'm also going to give you 10 categories that you need to do a little bit of research on, be aware about, so that you can prepare for the lexical resource bit of your writing assessment. You can build appropriate vocabulary and also have enough opinions or things to say about these topics, because a lot of essay questions revolve around these topics. All right, so without further ado, let's get started. The first one is obviously education. That's something that's a very big part of your life right now. It is something that impacts you, and obviously you're expected to have certain opinions related to education. Now, what is a sample question that you can expect here? Some people think that children should start school at a very early age, while others believe they should begin at least 7 years old. Discuss both views and give your own opinion. So now here, the structure that you're going to follow to frame your essay is, first you're going to start with an introduction of the topic. This is going to be very generic, followed by viewpoint 1, which is yes, children need to start school early. Then you're going to transition to viewpoint 2, which is no, they should not. Then you're going to talk about your opinion, which is either going to align with viewpoint 1 or viewpoint 2, and you're going to end with a conclusion that further emphasizes your opinion. This is the general structure we need to follow for this kind of a question. I have gone into a lot of detail explaining this essay structures in a live session that I took recently, so you can go watch that. It is the How to Get a Band 8 in Writing, I believe. So you can watch a detailed video on how this structure needs to be formulated. Now, once you are done doing this, coming up with your basic structure and adding your phrases, I've also given you phrases that you can learn and use in the essay. So your common phrases in when you add to an argument could be in addition to, also, furthermore, moreover. And when you want to give a contrasting opinion, it could be on the contrary, on the other hand, in contrast, but, however, all of these phrases, right? So when you figure all of that out, you need to now narrow down on maybe 2 things that you're going to say for, and then 2 things that you're going to say against. But before you do that, you also need to realize or understand that, okay, this is the stance I am going to take, and your entire essay needs to be skewed a little bit in favor of your opinion or your stance. Now, in this case, if you were to think of reasons why children should start school at a very early age, you can say, okay, that makes them independent faster. Okay, their brains have a lot of capacity to learn at that age. So if you put them in an environment that's conducive for learning, they can learn better. They can develop discipline and good habits early on. They can build their social skills, learn values like sharing, collaborating, teamwork, all of that early on, so that because as you know, research has told us that these things become harder to learn as you age, right? So these are all arguments that would be in favor of sending kids to school early. Some believe that they should begin at least 7 years old. You could say that, okay, the children actually need to spend more time with their parents till at least 7 years of age, because it helps them gain their confidence, figure out their own footing in the world. Being in a safe and loving environment, especially with a mother around, makes them more confident and secure human beings. If you send them out into the big bad world so early on, they might have certain traumatic experiences, might also experience bullying that can leave a lifelong scarring impact. So you can have arguments for both, doesn't matter. You don't have to come up with an argument that is irrefutable, because you're just essentially giving your opinion. Okay, you don't have to quote statistics. Nobody expects you to remember random statistics about things. But if you have read an article, if you happen to read an article recently about a topic like this, then you can definitely quote the article or some lines from it or some of its findings. All right, so this is how you will go about this. Now, what are some common angles that the education topic broadly can take? Can talk about the benefits of online learning, disadvantages versus advantages. It can talk about private versus public education, which is better over here. Definitely, there's a huge aspect of which country you are in. Pressure on students, how to ease the pressure. This could be like a problem versus solution kind of a question, where children are facing a lot of pressure, and due to which a lot of them are dropping out of school or not pursuing higher education. So what do you think the problems are, and how could you suggest some possible solutions? That could be a kind of question asked here. Exams versus skills. Should education be so focused on exams, or should it be more focused on building actual skills that will be useful in life? Okay, so these are some common angles in education. You can research these topics, you can have a general opinion on all of these, and you can also learn some terminology related to all of this, so that you are able to enhance your lexical resource score in the writing assessment. Okay, so that's for education. Let's move on to number 2, which is obviously technology, a huge part of our lives, and also changing so drastically and affecting the world so much that it has to be a common topic in almost all kinds of discussions. Any kind of assessment that you take where general topics are discussed, technology will be one of them. Example question here: new technologies have changed the way children spend their free time. Do the advantages outweigh the disadvantages? Now, this is a clear question where you are talking about advantages versus disadvantages and then again taking a stance. So it doesn't explicitly ask you to give your opinion. It doesn't say what is your opinion on the matter, but the very fact that it's asking you, do the advantages outweigh the disadvantages? You can either say yes or no. So you have to pick a side, okay? What will you do here? Again, your intro, conclusion will obviously remain. Here you're going to talk about, you can just state off the bat that I think the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. You can do that right in the beginning. Okay, then you can talk about the advantages, you can list them out. Then you have to concede a little bit. So you also have to talk about the disadvantages, but again, give a reason why advantages outweigh. And you can also do this the other way around, where you think no, the advantages don't outweigh the disadvantages, so you emphasize more on what the disadvantages are, concede that okay, these are the advantages, but these can be achieved through other means as well. Okay, that's going to be your basic structure over here. What are the advantages and disadvantages? How can you think about this? Well, you can say that advantages, definitely access to more resources from the comfort of your home. There is a lot of experimentation being done. Traditional classrooms or traditional learning was very blackboard, book. There was no the 3D, being able to imagine 3D visuals enhances learning in a lot of young learners. This has been researched, stuff like that. Disadvantages, obviously screen time, addiction, your eyesight being impacted, not being able to build social skills because you're just looking at a screen all the time, all of that. So whatever you pick, just make sure you slightly skew the argument in the favor of your stance. Now, what are some other common angles with respect to technology? Obviously, use of social media, big one. Automation also overlaps a little bit with jobs, how AI is taking over jobs. AI definitely a huge topic. Surveillance can also overlap with government policies, and obviously screen time. Okay, so you need to research all of these topics broadly. Don't get into a lot of detail. You don't need to memorize statistics, like I said. Just have a general opinion on the matter and know the kind of terminology that is used to talk about these things. Next up, we have the environment. Again, climate change is something that is being discussed on a international level, at a government domestic policy level. So it's always going to be a topic that honestly you also need to have an opinion on, because it impacts your life so much. Now, here an example is, some people believe that individuals can do little to improve the environment, while others think that they can have a big impact. And here again, discuss both views and give your opinion. So very close to the first example we saw, the structure will look the same. Now, what kind of arguments can you give here? What does it mean by believe that individuals can do little to improve the environment? It means that a lot of people have recently argued that, okay, switching from a plastic toothbrush to a wooden toothbrush, going plastic free in your day-to-day life, carpooling, not taking your own private vehicle everywhere, all of these things don't really have that big of an impact, because what's affecting the environment the most is government policy, government not cracking down on big capitalists and big businesses that are actually polluting the environment. Also, the carbon footprint of the 1% is generally a lot more than the rest of the population. So even if we make individual efforts to maybe use the AC less, use electricity less, carpool, all of these small things, all of that won't have any kind of a notable impact on climate change until big corporations take accountability and go greener. Okay, this is a general argument. So do you agree with this? Do you disagree with this? What are both the views? And then obviously if you want to say that no, individual efforts can have a big impact, in that case you will say, there's always compounding of efforts. Obviously if one person is doing it, it won't make a difference, but that one person, by changing their lifestyle, can influence 2 other people at least around them, and that will eventually compound and we will have large scale societal impact. Okay, what are some common angles here? Pollution, a big one, and you'll have a lot to talk about it because you're Indian. Climate change, obviously. Individual versus government responsibility. Close to this, government and capitalist. So it could be either. Should governments crack down on big corporations, make policies that mandate them to go greener, or should big corporations themselves take accountability, responsibility, all of that. All right, that is for environment. Next up we have health. Health is wealth. Some people believe that governments should tax unhealthy food to encourage healthier eating. To what extent do you agree or disagree? Now this is a different kind of a question that we are seeing. To what extent do you agree or disagree? Here off the bat in your intro, you have to mention the extent. Okay, and how do you mention extent? You mention extent using words like I completely agree, I sort of agree, but there are some things that I'm concerned about. I completely disagree. You can lie anywhere on that scale. You just need to figure out what is an argument that you can easily support, okay, and you have enough to write about, and then pick a side. State your extent right away. Answer why you agree or disagree. Concede. Say that, okay, the other side also has some good arguments. What does it mean to concede? It's like if you're having an argument or a debate, obviously I am for something or against something, and the person I'm debating with will be the opposite. So if I'm for something, they'll be against the same thing. Now, when I'm debating, to concede is to agree that, okay, the point you have made is valid. I agree with that point to an extent, but I still think what I'm saying has more value or outweighs whatever you're saying. Conceding is agreeing, acknowledging that what the other side of the argument is makes sense, but still there are some holes in that argument, or I can, and like despite that knowledge, I still stick to my stance. That is conceding. You have to do that so that you can show that, okay, I also have the vocabulary or the skill to talk about other perspectives. In life, you're not just going to have one black and white perspective, right? And you also need to understand other people. So showing that, okay, I understand your argument shows that you can communicate on a higher level than other people. So that is a good skill to have from a language perspective. I'm not talking about personality perspective, but it's also a good skill to have from a personality perspective. So you will concede, and then you will again give your conclusion in which you again emphasize your stance or why you said that I agree or disagree, or I somewhat agree, but I disagree unless these things are taken care of. Okay, now here what is the question? That governments should tax unhealthy food to encourage healthier eating. Here you can say that just putting a blanket tax on unhealthy food might have repercussions that go beyond the domain of health. For example, a lot of unhealthy foods are a lot cheaper than healthy foods, and if the population cannot afford the healthy foods, now they are being unfairly taxed on food that was affordable to them before. So you're not just penalizing people for eating unhealthy, you are also unintentionally penalizing people for being in a financially lower class in society. So that could be a possible problem. Here you could completely agree, you should say definitely but unhealthy foods should not be taxed from the consumer end. Production of unhealthy foods should be taxed so that it becomes expensive to produce those foods. Alright, so the onus of this should lie not with the consumer but actually with the manufacturer or the producer. So you can have multiple arguments like this. You also need to think about it. What are some other common angles that health can take? Obesity, the obesity epidemic. It has been talked about a lot, how because of ultra processed foods, obesity is increasing, which is also leading to lifestyle diseases that further puts a burden on the health infrastructure of countries. Also increases premiums for health insurance. So there's a ripple effect that comes in. This could be asked about. Fast food in general, public health care. How good should public health care be? How much should governments actually be spending on public health care? And lifestyle diseases. What are our lifestyle diseases? Now, again, these are all domain specific, topic specific words. So you need to know what they mean. Lifestyle diseases refers to diseases like high blood pressure, diabetes, issues that are caused not due to just genetics or other factors, but mainly because of having an unhealthy lifestyle, lack of exercise and bad diet. Okay. Next up, we have globalization and culture. Pros and cons of globalization and being able to talk about different cultures, pros and cons of some particular cultural aspect of your country, could be anything. Many traditional customs are being lost due to the influence of modern life. How much do you agree or disagree? Again, this is to what extent. It's the same kind of question, so you will follow the same structure. What does it mean by customs are being lost? Simply means that, okay, first it started out with mass production of this kind of an attire, t-shirt, jeans. So less and less people are now wearing their traditional clothes, even though in our country we still see a lot of people wearing their traditional clothes. But the more you go towards metropolitan cities and the more upscale neighborhoods, you will see that they are very westernized. You will find that most people, and here what you can do is, you don't have to talk about the world at large. You can narrow down to India because that's what you have experience with. So you can say that if you go to rural areas in India, people are still following their customs because westernization has not penetrated their lives to the same extent as urban areas, and especially upscale posh urban areas where people generally don't even use their own language to communicate. They talk in English. Everything they're wearing, the bags they're carrying, they're all Western, American, European fashion trends. So yes, you can say local traditional customs are being lost due to this, or you can say that's traditional customs are just being changed a little bit. They're not being entirely lost because people still celebrate their festivals. They might not speak their language for the sake of convenience, but they still know their language. So with a little bit of, if we raise awareness a little bit, we can still protect all our traditional customs. That doesn't have to come at the cost of globalization. We don't have to stop or meddle with globalization in any way, because the countries being so connected with each other has been good for the world. So whatever argument you want to take, you can take. What are some common angles? Cultural identity. To what extent do you show your cultural identity, especially when you're in a different country? Loss of languages is the whole English imposition leading to a loss of languages. There are many languages that are now starting to die because nobody is speaking those languages anymore. So to what extent should, here again, there could be a government policy overlap that should governments try and protect these languages. And obviously westernization, the West, especially through its media, taking over the world, and all fashion trends, all literary trends, you can talk about trends in any domain, they usually come from the West. So is that a good thing or a bad thing? Should we fight against it or should we just embrace it? Whatever your argument is. Next is work and employment, something that you are working towards. Some people think job satisfaction is more important than job security. Others think a permanent job is better. Discuss both and give your opinion. Now you're familiar with this format of discuss both and give your opinion. What is better? Job satisfaction or job security? Others is more permanent job is better. Okay. So here you have to, so in this kind of a question, because you have to give both viewpoints, you have to think along both lines. Job satisfaction, being happy about what you do, following your passion, even if it doesn't guarantee employment in the long run, is rewarding. It benefits you. It gives you the kind of high that people normally don't get from jobs. So that's why job satisfaction, not having a toxic work environment, working with good people, all of these should be prioritized over job permanence. Some might argue that, okay, we can really treat our job life and our home life as two different entities, and we can tune it on and off. So having job security is better, because regardless of what I go through, I know it's for limited hours. It's getting me a paycheck every month. It's taking care of my family. So I can deal with that and then turn that off when I'm at home. I can separate these two parts of my life. Whatever argument, okay, up to you. Common angles here again, work-life balance becomes a huge one. Remote work and income versus passion. Can you give up a good income to follow your passion? Okay, next we have Crime and Punishment, also very good very good book by Dostoevsky. Here the example is, some people think that the best way to reduce crime is to give longer prison sentences. Others believe that there are better ways to reduce crime. Discuss both views and give your opinion. Okay, so here again, increasing prison sentences again comes with a lot of repercussions that you need to think about. What if somebody has been sent to jail despite not having done the crime? If you are giving longer prison sentences, can the state bear that burden? Can taxpayers bear that burden of keeping so many prisoners in jails for so long? Do we have enough physical infrastructure to accommodate all these people? Even in jail, they need to be taken care of. They're getting food, they're getting health care. How is that going to be afforded by the government? Those are some points you can give here. There are better ways to reduce crime. Here again, instead of having punitive measures, you can think about raising social awareness, trying to stop crime before it even happens, instead of focusing on punishment, which only comes into play after a crime has happened. How can we stop it from happening in the first place? Can we increase vigilance? Can we increase police patrolling? Can we better use CCTV cameras or lighting in public places? What are possible options? Okay. Common angles here, juvenile crime, which is under 18. So you need to know the meaning of the word juvenile. Rehabilitation, policing, and capital punishment. Capital punishment has been topic of debate for time immemorial. Capital punishment means death penalty. All right, so you need to know these terms. Number 8, we have society and development. Some people believe that people should be retired at a fixed age regardless of occupation. Others argue that some people should continue to work as long as they want. Discuss both and give your opinion. Retiring early gives a person, even if you are normally the kind who is a workaholic, everybody has a burnout at some point. And so retiring at a particular age, number one, forces a person to think about other things in life, take it easy. Secondly, makes space for new young workers. There's a lot of unemployment. There's an unemployment crisis all over the world. So if people retire early, then we can also get new young people into the workforce. It also keeps the workforce young and energetic. That could be one side of the argument. The other argument is people should be able to work as long as they want. Working is definitely a right that you have. If you wish to work, if it makes you happy, nothing should stop you. As long as you meet the criteria, you're able to work, you're physically and mentally fit to work, there should be no mandate to stop anybody from working. Older people come with a lot of experience, the kind of insights that they have, a lot of young people don't. So it would definitely be beneficial to have them in the workforce. Both opinions, and then you can give yours. Common angles related to society and development would be how to deal with the aging population, gender roles in society, in the workplace, urban versus rural life. Indians can talk a lot about urban versus rural life and also gender roles actually. Next, we have the government and economy. So throughout this session, I've been telling you how a lot of things overlap with government policy. So you will get a lot of questions that simply ask you, should governments focus more on this? Now, don't think of these as UPSC questions. You don't have to state statutes. You don't have to quote cases or different parts of the constitution. None of that. You just have to simply give your general opinion. You know how your parents have general conversations, especially uncles have conversations, around the house. Those kind of discussions, okay? But unlike a lot of uncles, you need to substantiate your points. Your arguments need to be valid and justified. So here, governments should spend more money on public services instead of the arts. To what extent do you agree or disagree? So here you can say yes, public services are definitely more immediately important because they affect the day-to-day lives of people. Art is something that matters only when your basic necessities and needs are taken care of. Not the entire population cannot afford to dedicate time to arts, so public services should definitely be prioritized. That's one argument. Other arguments is arts is the beating heart of humanity. It is very important. Arts, are the voice of the voiceless, and not only do arts exist, like we can talk about literature, you can talk about painting, anything. Not only does it exist to be appealing or give people a break from life, it also gives voice to people's troubles and problems. Those who can't express themselves can be expressed through art. So it keeps some sort of a discussion in society alive. And if a government gets too authoritative, the first thing it cracks down on is the arts. Okay, because arts often is the voice of dissent, and if governments don't want dissent, they crack down on arts. So that's why art should always be funded, should always be important. But funding doesn't mean that you micromanage what is happening. Another argument here could be that arts gives opportunity for employment to a lot of people. A lot of people who are talented in these fields are not able to get suitable employment because they're forced into other domains and subjects. So this will give employment to people and overall better for the economy. Also, to make a good impression of the country on a world scale, on an international scale, government should focus on arts. Okay, painters make countries famous, writers make countries famous. Okay, common angles here: budget allocation by the government. What kind of things should be spent, should the government spend more on? Taxes, we have a lot to say about this as Indians as well. Infrastructure versus entertainment, these are all normal. So the government economy questions will not be so specific that you will be at a loss of words. You don't have to use a lot of technical jargon here. It's okay if you don't know technical jargon, because especially economics will have a lot of it. It's fine, you can keep your views generic, but you need to have enough opinions in order to talk about them. You can't write 250 words about something you don't know anything about. So generally being aware is necessary. And that brings us to number 10 on our list today, which is media and advertising. Advertising has a strong influence on the way people shop. Do you think the positives outweigh the negatives? Positives outweighing the negatives, same thing as advantages outweighing the disadvantages. Now advertising, you can say, obviously I strongly agree, that has an influence on the way people shop. And I think the negatives here outweigh the positives, not the other way around, because through advertising, people are being manipulated into, one, consuming more than necessary, buying things that are unnecessary, potentially buying things that are harmful for them just because a celebrity that they like has endorsed the product, something like that. Or you can say, no, advertising is the only way through which people get to know about things. They might understand problems that they knew they had but didn't have a solution to. So positives outweigh the negatives. Any stance you want to take, you can take, as long as you justify it. What are some other common angles here? Consumerism, the need to just buy. It's bad for the environment, it's bad for our mental health, yet it is happening and we are bombarded with ads. You know, if we don't see ads for like 50 different things when we are scrolling on Instagram or social media, or if we don't see ads for random things on billboards when we are driving, chances are we won't go out of our way to purchase those things. It's this constant bombardment that is making us buy these things. So consumerism has an overlap with this example, and you can definitely use the word consumerism in this essay. So this is how you need to learn domain specific words. Children and ads. Do ads have a negative influence on children? Should we protect children from ads because children don't have critical thinking skills? They will not be able to assess whether or not this product has a value addition in their life. They will simply see a cartoon they like endorsing a product and they would want it. Next, you have online influence, influencers influencing you to buy things even if they don't use it just because they got a brand deal. And fake news is a big one. Again, with India, you can talk about how social media is being used to spread fake news, especially WhatsApp in a time of crisis. You can even reference the crisis that just happened related to Operation Sindoor and how a lot of fake news was spread not only in India but also in Pakistan. Talk about things like that. Okay, so that was the last topic. I hope this was helpful. Now you do have to do a little bit of effort from your end. You need to research, you need to look up words, you need to have specific vocabulary, appropriate vocabulary, and obviously you need to have opinions on these matters. It will really enhance your essays. I am telling you, this will really help you out. This exercise should take maybe half an hour of your time every day. If you're waiting for somebody outside and you're on your phone instead of scrolling Instagram, you can look up news articles related to these things, and that will really help in your IELTS preparation. You don't have to dedicate 1 hour where you're going to sit and do this. You can just do it throughout your day whenever you have time to be on your phone. Okay? Thank you so much. Please do not forget to subscribe to the channel and follow us on all our socials so you don't miss out on updates. I will see you again very soon. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.